All right, we are green. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, our beautiful country, how we're going to fix this bad boy together. Guys, oh man, this episode is going to make you, I don't even know what it's going to do. You just check yourself before you wreck yourself, because we are now walking through millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that have been discovered that were sneakily finding their way into the Taliban's coffers. We have a undiscovered and undisclosed arsenal found in the middle of nowhere at the Institute of Peace. Yep, I said that right. And then we've also got around $4 trillion in payments that just don't have any budgetary tags that was all discovered by DOGE. Guys, there's money, there's illicit arsenals, there's IRS, there's institutes of peace with guns everywhere. This is going to be an episode that's going to blow your mind. All the while, they're trying to take your gun rights away and then tax you more and then give all the guns to the Taliban. And yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. But just guys, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, because YouTube is seriously kicking my butt in backwards with these subscriptions. So just make sure you guys aren't getting unsubscribed, because it hasn't happened in a while this bad, and it's happening. All right, enough of the introduction. Let's get to the news. Let's get to the commentary, the conversation. The X feed. Make sure you guys are following me at Braden LOA. The audio video is good. That is excellent. Notifications are still late. I am not surprised. It has been a struggle bus the last month and a half. Well, people, thank you for showing up. Let's dive right in. I've got to show you something that I was kind of tracking for a story for you guys, and then it kind of blew up out of nowhere. All right, watch this. Let me show you what I was tracking, and we're going to go into Elon's account real quick. So this is his X account, and he said this is a big deal, and I found that intriguing. And the actual tag the tweet that he retweeted here was, last week, the Treasury went live with its first automated payment verification system. In total, $334 million in improper payment requests were identified and rejected to missing budgets, invalid codes, etc. I thought, that's extremely interesting, because that's a lot of money, and usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's dive into that tweet a little bit more, and then I'll show you what they found when they dove even closer, because these interviews you're about to see are mind-boggling. So as I was mentioning, they're missing budget codes, invalid budget codes, which the payment wasn't linked to anything that Congress passed, shocker, and budget codes with no authorization, i.e. the budget had already been fully spent. So they're just taking your money. I mean, that's effectively what it is. Now, I'm going to the next one, and this is why I hadn't covered this story yet, because I was looking at it, I was like, it's just missing that last little piece. It turns out that last little piece was the Taliban. Wait for it. So as you can see, as we're continuing through here, this is what he was alluding to. The Treasury Access Symbol, or the TAS, is an identification code linking a Treasury payment to a budget line item. So Congress passes it, it gets spent, and there's a tag that says here's where the money came from, where it went, what it was used for. Well, in the federal government, it was optional. So for $4.7 trillion in payments was often left blank, making traceability almost impossible. Isn't that convenient? I tell you what, when I'm doling out all my budgetary stuff, like when I'm paying Katie and all that stuff, I'm sitting there thinking, it would be so good if I didn't know where this money was coming from, so I couldn't budget it. It was so handy. Yeah, no, it's all slush fund. Anyway, as of Saturday, that was yesterday, or actually no, today, this is now a required field, increasing insight into where the money is actually going. Okay, now let's fast forward a little bit. Sorry, that wasn't this Saturday, that was previous Saturday. Now let's fast forward. So this is what the DOGE account actually said. Okay, again, keep in mind, $4.7 trillion, and then all of a sudden it shows up in the hands of the Taliban, and they also found an illicit arsenal that no one knew was there. Arsenal. Okay, not a gun, arsenal. That's coming next. Okay, first of all, let me show you what this interview says about where this money was going and how it was being wasted. Again, if this doesn't make blood shoot out of your eyes, I don't know what it does, because at the same time they were doing this, they were taking your gun rights through executive fiat from executive bureaucratic agencies, and then increasing your taxes and also increasing the IRS agents to collect them while doing this.
Sure. So actually, a lot of great work at the Treasury this week. One of the crazy things with regards to the Treasury is that when a payment is made, and the computers at the Treasury actually pay about $5 trillion per year, like crazy amounts.
$5 trillion a year.
There was formerly not a budget code on there. So if a payment was made, you didn't know actually what it was for. It could have been for anything. Yeah. There was a $4 billion COVID fund in the Department of Education. and there was no receipts required, so people could just draw down on it. And when people
okay, so hold on before we go further, because again, this is gonna make your heads explode. $5 trillion per year, and there was no traceability whatsoever, no budgetary codes, any of that stuff. You wonder why we have a massive deficit and no one can say where the money goes? You really wonder anymore? It's because there was no traceability on purpose. It's not a bug, it was a feature. Anyway, let's continue. Let's talk about the COVID funds and what they were using it for. And the Taliban's coming up next. Watch this next one.
looked into it, this wasn't us, this was before us. They found that money was being used to rent out Caesar's Palace for parties, rent out stadiums, etc. And so the one change that DOGE made with Department of Education is we had the simple requirement that if you draw down money, you must first upload a receipt.
Okay. Department of Education. This is Randy Weingarten. This is the teachers union. The Department of Education had no receipts required, had no budgetary codes required, $4 billion in COVID money, and they were renting out Caesar's Palace, and there was just ways to draw down this money. Guys, what? Okay, let's continue. I wonder why the Department of Education's gone now.
That was the only change that was made. You must upload your receipt. And upon doing so,
yes,
nobody drew down any money anymore.
Weird.
We didn't say that we'd check the receipt. You could send a fake receipt. You could send a picture of your dog. Anything. But as soon as we asked for anything at all, suddenly the requests were like, oh, we don't need it anymore. Huh, that's interesting.
They were renting Caesar's Palace.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. So you get the point. We're going to go to the Taliban next. Guys, all they did on a $4 billion COVID fund that was going to the Department of Education was they just said provide a receipt because there was no proof of receipt required before, and all the withdrawal requests stopped. I don't know. I think we may be over the target. But enough of that. That's just showing you what they were doing, which led to this, which is the whole title of the video. Here we go. Listen to this quote, and then I'll play the video. Holy crap. DOGE uncovered a massive arsenal of weapons and payments to the Taliban in the U.S. Institute of Peace. Yeah, that checks out. Oh, don't worry. They tried to cover their tracks too. Watch this. Watch what they say here.
And thanks to President Trump, he's now signed 2 executive orders to start to reduce the number of agencies in the government, and the Institute of Peace was one of them, which is why our team went in to try and understand what was going on. And that's when we found all of the craziness, like the weapons in their armory. We found the payments to the Taliban.
Okay, so before we... So in the U.S. Institute of Peace, they found a stocked armory. No one knows where it came from, and no one knew who has it, and no one knew who has access to it, but they just found a magical stocked arsenal, and millions upon millions of dollars are going to the Taliban. Guys, holy crap. The inmates are running the prison. Anyway, let's continue. Listen to this.
Oh, yeah.
So
Try to hide the evidence.
Right, so just a few hours after we got into their headquarters, we found that their chief accountant had actually deleted over 1 terabyte of accounting records from several years. So you'd have to ask the question, well, why would somebody do that? And the DOGE team, fortunately, was able to recover that data with the help of a few great employees at the Institute of Peace. And I think the most troubling thing was they received $55 million a year from Congress, and any money that went unspent, instead of returning that to Congress, they would sweep it into a private bank account, which had no congressional oversight. And that's what they would use to fund things like events at their headquarters and the private jets. And so I think it's a great example because most Americans don't know what's going on at a lot of these smaller agencies. And this is, I think, the most extreme case of some of the wasteful spend that we're finding.
Okay, before he goes into this, keep in mind, funding the Taliban, illicit arms caches, if you will, to go straight up 007 style. Here's what they were doing. They had money that was allocated from Congress at $55 million a year. There were no receipts required. There was no proof of what you were spending it for. There was no tax code, budgetary code, no line item trackable, whatever. Then whatever wasn't spent was moved over into a private fund, and the chief accountant got caught deleting terabytes of data before DOGE got in there. At the U.S. Institute of Peace, again, having an illicit arsenal in the basement. Holy balls. And I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Where are the arrests? Who's going to prison? When's the jail time happening? They actually referred them. Okay, watch this.
So the agencies are hiding money from you. They're sending it to the Taliban. They have loaded weapons in the department buildings.
At the Institute of Peace.
At the Institute of Peace.
That's right.
So this is a cover-up when you guys roll in.
This one, yes, they cover up.
It's a cover-up.
They did delete a vast amount of financial information. That's really a definition of a cover-up.
Isn't that illegal to delete evidence?
Yes.
Wait for it.
Documents?
It is. It's certainly illegal to delete accounting records that that Congress would certainly want to know where the congressionally appropriated funds are going from taxpayers.
When you catch them going Hillary style on their computers, do you refer this to the Department of Justice?
In this case, we did refer the evidence in the accounting example to the FBI and DOJ.
Okay, so they referred it to the FBI and the DOJ. So my question is, when do we get to see the perp walk? Because at the U.S. Institute of Peace, they had stocked and loaded weapons in a arsenal or a cache in the actual building of the U.S. Institute of Peace. They have $55 million a year, no budgetary codes, no tracking, no nothing. Goes into a private account of which they then fund the Taliban. Guys, it's totally normal. And all the while, they're using the ATF to go after your gun rights. They're using the DOJ to prosecute us individuals. And then they're raising our taxes while they're doing this with our taxes. Yeah. I understand the frustration. I do. But this right here, more sunlight. Send this stuff out, because the more people that see this stuff, the more it's going to be harder to basically say, no, that never happened. That's the way that this works. We are literally a sieve of money just going everywhere. And then on top of that, you got $1.7 trillion budget where Trump just cut, I think it was back to the 60s in his request. This is why we do what we do. And someone just said in the comments right here, YouTube is throttling. Yeah, probably. Wouldn't be surprised. My YouTube subscriber count per this month would verify that the throttling is occurring. But I can't confirm that 100%. But guys, this is what we're dealing with. This is why we fight every single day. Giving millions upon millions of dollars to the Taliban from leftover funds allocated by Congress, swept into a private account with no trackability whatsoever or oversight, hiding money from Congress, and then deleting the actual financial records? Oh, yeah. I want perp walks. I don't even want the cuffs behind. I want the cuffs in front, and I want them to drape over the blazer so that, oh, they don't have cuffs on. Yeah, that's what I want. I want them to be like, oh, I didn't do it. Yeah, you did it. That's what I want. But you guys tell me what you want. Let me know if I landed that plane right down in the description box below. I hope you are having a wonderful Saturday night, the best of the week, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.